What's good, everybody, and welcome back to the channel today for another review. Adversary and I are getting ready to give you our review of the entire series of Dear Mama, the Saga of Afeni and Tupac Shakur, which is available now. Half of it's available now on FX. The first two episodes are available now, and each new episode for a total of five are dropping each and every Friday at 10 p.m. on FX, which means you can catch it on Hulu the following day. Um, you know, I I'll be honest, man. Like I'm a huge Tupac fan, and upon hearing about this documentary, it was a no-brainer, and I wanted to check it out. The first two episodes premiered at a film festival some time ago last year. I think it was at Toronto International Film Festival. And ever since then, I just been having my eyes set on when was this going to be released. And when you talk about documentaries, especially when you talk about one of the most iconic and legendary rappers in Tupac, along with his mom, who also should get that same tag and iconic and legendary, you start to say and think in 2022, 2023, what more can they tell? And I'm here to say that folks are who already watched the first two episodes already know. But I'm here to say for the five episodes total, I I'm just speechless at the vast amount of knowledge, the footage that was used, the testimony, just the perspective, because like Tupac is so iconic, not just to our culture, but to the entire world. But like let's keep it a buck. When we in our circles, we talk about who's better, Tupac and Biggie, and all those conversations like that. And then there's also little other conversations that we be having, thinking, talking about like what we know, what we think, and theories and da da da. But when you hear it from the folks that were right there with him, the folks that was there from him day to day, his friends, his family, even like Tyson coming in, bringing that perspective, just was mind blowing to me in this. I just was just lost at words. I just could not believe just the vast amount of information that we got from this. Again, I'm gonna keep it spoiler free for you all, but I'm here to just definitely let y'all know, like, stay locked in every episode because it just keeps getting better and better and better and better and better. And make sure you stay through the credits for each episode too, because they also give you a little bit of a stinger, a little bit of extra content through that as well too. But man, I love this, man. I'm absolutely rewatching this because with documentaries, you do get a lot of information, but then you got to go back and you got to put that pen to the paper and you got to start taking those notes. You got to start really breaking it down and dissecting things. Like you hear things, you're like, wait, did they say what? Hold on. Run that back real quick. Let me fully grasp what's being said to me right now. And when you talk about somebody like Tupac, who folks were, people throw the word poet on his as a label with him, but he was an activist, and then to be the son of a true activist is layers of layers on this education thing, man. I was taking the school on this, and I know I'm probably rambling, but I'm just so emotionally like charged on this, man. This was so damn good, folks. You gotta check it out. Adversary, man. I am beyond curious to know your thoughts about this. And again, folks, if you had not checked out any of our reviews here at Big O Bell Media, or have don't know who Adversary is, which you should, his background and even what he does now, I just can imagine the impact that Tupac has on your career, your day-to-days, your relationships with your family and with your kids. I just couldn't even imagine just how much he means to you. So I'm beyond curious and quite frankly a fan to kind of hear what you have to say about this.
Yeah, no, I agree. I love the documentary. I thought it was very, very well executed. I feel like a person like Tupac, the magnitude of a person he is, if you were going to tell his story, this is exactly the way you do it. You go to the source. You get the family members. You get the security guards. You get the school friend. You get the people that was really around him, that saw him in his raw form of him being him, prior even to the superstar that we came to know and love. And you just get these accounts, you get these pictures painted, these visuals, right? As MC, like you said, the conversations we have with who was better and who's this and it. In, you know, when people ask, yo, who's your top five? That's the thing that's, you know, it's a hip hop thing. I personally feel like that's a disrespectful question because there are so many talented, incredible MCs. How could you just pick five, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for the sake of argument, if we're gonna go five, Pac for me was my second favorite. Pac is my number two. The only MC I put over Tupac is my favorite, which is Big L, who's another MC that's not nearly credited the way he need to be or known the way he should be. But
No
for
one
all
gonna argue
Jay-Z,
that.
you know what I mean? For you Jay-Z fans, y'all know what's up. I ain't gonna say too much. Y'all know what it is. But right after Big L, for me, is Pac. I think Pac is legendary. I think Pac don't get the credit he deserves as far as his MCing. Everybody else, oh, well, he was good and he, you know, he made you feel what he was saying, and I feel like they be disrespecting his bars. Pac could go. Now, was he the most, you know, super lyrical guy? No, because that wasn't necessarily the lane he was in. But if you listen to him and break down his, Pac had bars. And the hardest Pac verse I ever heard, funny enough, was I think it was DJ Ron, who took Big L and Tupac, who both were deceased by the time the song came out, and just put two of their verses on the same jump. That verse that they used for Pac, the hardest Pac verse I ever heard. And I think a lot of people heard that, they would change their view on his lyrical ability. Growing up, before I even got into music or had the idea to rhyme, Tupac was one of the main people I listened to. He had such a duality that even as a preteen, you know what I mean, 10, 11, 12, I was listening to him, but I couldn't really comprehend or appreciate the way, like now as an adult, I can go back and be like, wow. But even as a kid, I was absorbing all of Tupac, man. He was amazing. I remember Made Figures, when Made Figures dropped, it was back Rap City. Rap City used to come on. I run to the TV because that was the hour you got to catch the video. This was way before YouTube and all of that. So if you wanted to see what the new video was or who had a new single, you had to catch it 4:00 when it came on. When you feel me?
Yeah.
When Made Figures came out with him and the Outlaws, that was my joint. The way they did the video with the rotating camera in the circle, I hadn't seen that prior to that video. So he was just so innovative. And even in I think it was the first or the second episode, they talked about the Brenda's Got a Baby video where he just randomly was looking at him through the camera and caught that close-up, that famous close-up that we know of when we think of the video. You know, and that was more, I guess, on the director side, but he was like, even looking at him in that moment, you could just see he was destined for superstardom. Like he was really about to be something that the world wasn't ready for. So I thoroughly enjoyed this. I felt like Allen Hughes deserves several medals of honor for putting this together.
Yeah.
I feel like he did it the way it was supposed to be done. He included everyone that I believe he could have possibly included to help tell that story.
Yeah. Also, really quickly on that note too, because I noticed that a couple of folks are wondering about missing folks that could have been in it. I heard somebody say like, why Tupac's sister is not involved in it, and so on. Listen, I think that to in no disrespect, I think that the people that needed to be at the table to let this flow for 5 episodes and the continuity behind the episodes was done right. We've seen other biopics, docuseries, documentaries where they try to involve any and everybody, just for every and anybody to be mad that it wasn't the way they wanted it to be. Anything Whitney Houston, go look it up. You already know. Tons of commentaries like, oh, I ain't like that. Why is that in it? Da, 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 da. This is not only just a docuseries in terms of providing information and insight into these two iconic people, but this is a celebration. It was raw, but it was a celebration of these two iconic, legendary people, their impact on society, their impact to many people, many cultures. And I ain't just talking about Black people in rap in the West Coast or in the East Coast, or in the USA. We're talking across the world here. And we're talking about the influence from where the two of them and what they've done and who they touched and reached out to. I mean, listen here. When you just talk about Afeni and her impact in the Black Panther, something I knew a little about, but the way they explain her involvement, her even a falling out with the Black Panthers at a point, but her still trying to find ways to get the message across, and then how that also influenced Pac and what he did, and he wanted to tell his message. He just put it through lyrics, and you hear his mom through everything he says, and like it's some real powerful stuff. It is a complete duality of these two folks. Most of the time when people talk about like mother-son relationship, they're like, oh well, the son, you know, their hero was their mother and they took after their mother. That is 1,000% true. The difference between the two of them, at least what I got from this, is that it was almost as if they were running a parallel. They both had a mission and they both stopped at nothing to make sure they do so. And to hear Tupac's aunt and Afeni's sister talk about just as again, we talk about a valuable source in terms of documentary, to keep it 100, saying that my sister was never happy. She never thought she gave enough. And I'm sitting here with my jaw dropped, like she gave her entire life. She gave her son
service.
It's almost like, and you know, lack of better words, I don't want to disturb anybody the wrong way, but almost as if she was a god. She gave her son and everything that she taught him, and he gave himself to pass this message. And then they both knew that the job would never be done unless they had to leave. They already understood that, like, you know, activists or revolutionaries, you know, can pass, but the revolution can never end. And they had to be the ones to keep it going. And it's some real powerful stuff that goes into this. Let me pull back the curtains a little bit for the two of us. You know, when we do our shows, we come prepared. We got notes. We got a plan, etc. We both said to each other, like, man, this was so much. There was no way we can take notes. So we're speaking from the heart and from passion in terms of what you're seeing here. And it's just that solid. And in case you need some statistics behind this, well, guess what, folks? Well, Mr. Allen Hughes, director and producer, scores the most watched premiere episode of an unscripted series ever for FX. It is 100% right now on Rotten Tomatoes. Go check it out. You don't even need to hear nothing else.
And it needs to be, because I think you bring up a very good point. The duality. I thought it was such a well done job. It was so well conveyed, the depth of both of these people, Afeni and Tupac, and the way that they described and laid out the foundation for how heavily Tupac was influenced by his mother. One thing that I loved about the way this was done is, like, some of the information I was privy to, a lot of it I wasn't. Some of the footage I had seen, I remember some of that from the news, then a lot of it I hadn't. So the way that they took a lot of this unseen footage and these unheard stories and accounts and viewpoints and melded them together, the way
let me add one more thing in there too. And the renditions of these iconic songs, like, we've heard these songs attached to beats, but to kind of strip them apart and kind of make it work towards what we're being seen. So, like, when you talk about the editing and the production along with the things you're saying, oh, it's a master class.
It's magnificent. And there was so much I learned on Afeni's part, where with the trial, her cross-examination, her not going for an attorney. I'm going to be the attorney. I'm going to rep. They said she gave a legendary cross to one of the main witnesses on the other side and gave him pause and caused him to mentally get himself out of character, because he couldn't dodge the questions. And she was honing in and asking exactly what needed to be asked and presenting her case exactly as it needed to be. It was so much, man. I feel like watching after going through it, it makes me feel like I'm like family. Like, you feel a literal connection, is you know, cliche as that may come across. How I felt after watching it, already being a Pac fan, by the end of it, I felt like I had just learned about family members. Like, that was the cousin and that was the auntie that I didn't know so much about, but now I can embrace them and appreciate them even more when you see, you know what I mean? when you take into account Tupac's age, a lot of people I think forget that. We look up to him because we was kids when he was at his prime. So we look to him as an adult. But in the grand scheme of things, he was only 25. A point was made. They say you're not a man until 27. If you think of the average 25-year-old right now, and put that in context and perspective, it's mind-boggling how this man, 25 years old, on top of the world, millions of dollars, millions of albums sold, influence, trying to literally to the point utilize it to politics. Like Pac was on another level, and I love him for that. And I'm so thankful that his mother understood what needed to be done, and she didn't hesitate, and she infused all of that into her son. He in turn did not hesitate. They both knew they had a mission. They both knew it would never be done up until they dying day, but they both understood the necessity for it to start taking place. I feel like they also understood the severity of what would happen if they didn't go hard with it. So it was almost like not a choice. Whether she had made a point about being at peace with having your death date, understanding as a human that when you come in, you also got to leave. And the fact that she and her son internalized that, took it serious, and took it to the max, I'm so thankful, because I can only imagine what the community would look like or how things may be for us had they not done that. If Tupac would have just been comfortable chilling, if Afeni would have said, it's too much, I'm gonna fall back, what the consequences of how dire that would have been, versus them standing up and saying, nah, we're gonna go hard, this needs to be done, and let's go ham. And they did that.
Yeah, man, like Will said, and I think there's still so many more words we can put into just this experience, man. This was every bit of the wait since it had been announced and since it had premiered at Toronto International Film Festival. And it's 5 episodes, and by all means you have to stick through to each of them, because talk about some of the things that really surprised me. I think the biggest thing for me was just Tyson. I as a kid, everybody loved but feared Tyson. And like knowing Tyson, who I know Tyson to be now, who has taken a step back from the violence, but he still loves combat sports. He's heavily involved in the medical marijuana business, pretty much runs Vegas in California, if you don't know. And he's like a on-set choreographer. So when you want to bring a consultant in about how to make these punches look real and so on, I mean, everyone's seen Ip Man and seeing that he can still throw down. Like he has like a whole nother life outside of the Don King BS. But when he spoke about his friend Tupac, that Tyson that we all feared, it was almost like their energies bounced off of each other. It's like Tupac fed off of him. He fed off of Tupac. So him talking about Tupac, the old Tyson came out, which was like a scary thing, because we know he's the baddest man on the planet. So to know how passionate he is about that, about him, and then to hear his story about the Tyson fight night is the most chilling story that I've never heard this perspective of, because I don't even believe Tyson's ever spoke about it in this way. And it's like in definitive, like, this is how it played out for sure. Like me knowing how people react to boxing, him talking about how they fed off of each other, the footage of them hanging out immediately after the fight, all of it, man, was just, it obviously was a good watch, but it was completely emotional. And again, as it is 2023, knowing that this guy passed in 1996, it hurt like it happened today. I was in tears. I was just thinking about just how much he affected everyone around him, how much love from the fans, the fans, family, just random casual fans, should we say, inspiring artists and actors and rappers, like just knowing how that one night and just the stories behind it. And then Snoop, man, Uncle Snoop, his priceless contribution to this tells a story that just really just, it hits you in the feels, man. And I just keep it 100, man. The one of the biggest things that I had, and I know I said I didn't have notes, but I wrote like little tidbits. 'Cause I want to make sure I spoke to this. To hear how his friends and family dissected his lyrics, because there's the rap geniuses in the world. And what I mean by that, I mean like the websites and the website ish like that, the ones that's like, oh, this is what this meant, da 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 da. You're like, okay, I see what he meant when he was saying that. And that's me. That's not an artist that goes and do that. And then yourself as an artist looks at him like, oh, I understand the science of how that sort of wordplay works out, and I kind of understand the story behind it. I'm trying to tell you, to hear his friends and family dissect his lyrics and the meanings behind them will by all means put you in tears, because I text adversary and I said that, and I'm not going to give it away, but I said Snoop provided an insight about a very, very iconic and very popular line in one of his most popular songs that I had no clue had any attachment to Snoop Dogg. And the fact that they were, you can almost say brothers, and they did beef like brothers. Like they didn't talk when they didn't talk, but they always loved each other. To hear him provide that insight on that was just kind of just like, I need a second. I need a second.
And Pac just even as you speak about that, I just immediately go back to his catalog, and it's just like, little homies, 96 big bodies riding on chrome, let it to my unborn, like running on E. Like my man got joints for days. I think for me, the I don't know if I can say, but like all of it was my favorite. I don't know if I had one particular favorite part, but I guess what stood out to me the most was his Aunt Glow. She was someone that I had I didn't know who she was, or, I had no insight to her. To see her throughout the entire course of the docuseries, break everything down to the degree that she did, speak to it from the perspective that she did. As she's telling these stories, I swear you will feel like you in the room. You will feel like you was there when she said, oh yeah, Tupac did this. And I remember when this happened and he called me and said this. It's like you right there watching Pac, like, damn, oh, he did that for real. And he called you and he did. It's so visual and so, it's like, not that I would think she was lying anyway, but it's just the way she, like, certain people tell stories in a way.
It's in her spirit.
Yeah, I know you was there. I know you was okay.
Yeah. Let me just chime in on something really quick. You know that thing that everybody would say, hey, would you take $1 million or a dinner with Jay-Z?
Right.
Oh, Aunt Glow, 1,000%, because as you say, she is truly the heart and the catalyst of this documentary. And it was definitely like when she's talking, you felt it. And I think it's something about the family, because every single person who talks, it's beyond human. It's spiritual. It's deep, man.
And I think what I liked in particular about her is because she was Afeni's sister, and therefore by default a close part of the entire situation. Like I said, I feel like she can speak to it in ways that a lot of other people probably can't or won't.
Yeah.
Even when they got to the point about them having to go to court, papers getting filed, information coming out well into the trial that none of them knew. So when she's going, yeah, we found out about COINTELPRO and the informants and the police officers, and then they're going through some of the names, and she's like, yeah, I remember him. I ain't never trust him. Yeah, he looked funny to me from jump. It's that you want to talk about chilling? Like that's some shit. If you put that in perspective, you as a witness to a scenario where people went to court, true identities and intentions was found out, and now all these years later in discussion, people bring it up and you can say, yeah, I was there. I remember Slim. Yeah, what's his name? Yeah, I remember Cut. He always used to wear this shit. He was... That gave me chills. Like
even when they started to talk about the FBI's involvement with the Panthers and how that connected to Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. I mean, it got deep.
And I'm so glad that that's there, bro. Because like I be trying to have conversations and get people hip. Like a friend of mine told me something very profound that I've been digesting for the last maybe 3 or 4 years. And it was simple. It's, I mean, 3 6 Mafia also put it out there. Essentially, don't save her, she don't want to be saved. So to break that down, essentially, there are people in the world who, no matter how much insight you try to give them, they not looking for the insight. They don't want to be saved. They don't want to know. So sometimes when you have these conversations and you try to give people insight, yo, these elected officials ain't all like, yo, these politicians, they lying to you. Yo, these police is really doing it. Oh no, yeah, conspiracy theorists. Oh, that doesn't.
Yeah.
And as much information documented as we have about these organizations on the books, and people still refuse to believe it. So I'm glad that somebody that was there firsthand is able to speak on it. And
Yeah, I mean, it puts to bed a lot of the conspiracy theorists that's out here with their own narrative. Again, yeah, this is why, like, what this documentary just did not miss. I could probably add another 15-20 minutes to your statement, but like, I totally agree that this level of authenticity to this is again indisputable. It is legit. It is real. You can feel it. You don't have to question. The right people involved were here. The right people that need to be involved with this documentary was here. Those people were there. And like, there's so many different things that you could connect with this. I mean, Tupac struggling with his mental health. This is a guy who was at his high, the top of the mountain. He could not miss. Anything he touched was gold. Struggled with his mental health. Was not scared to admit it. In a century now, years later, where black men are still scared to do it. This was a thug. But like, listen to me now. This was a gangster who was very open about his mental health, who he that struggled with it, but was very, very clear and open about his intentions and what he wanted to do on this earth. And he did all of this before the age of 25. And that's just it's unspeakable. I think the last thing I just want to quickly say is understanding the influence by the two of them. I mean, Afeni and her work as a Black Panther and how that interacted with his dad, and his dad was a Panther, and his influence and their influence, and how their influence branched off into other parts of the Black Panthers. We talk about Fred Hammond and how he came on scene, and how Fred Hammond influenced Tupac, and then his mom, and then his the absence of his dad, and even his dad being a part of the interview, talking about, when he got shot in New York and how he tried to come there for him. I mean, hearing from Dr. Dre, I mean, talking about the business aspect after Tupac died, his estate, and how his mom had to come in and handle the business. Eminem talking about how he curated
I always wondered about that.
The library, man, right. I definitely did too. I was just like, how the heck? But listen,
how did he get these? Okay, that makes sense. He just called moms.
Yeah. And moms knew what it was. A good judge of character, and all the way to her dying breath, man. That they stood for something much bigger than their bodies. They knew there were vessels on this earth for something bigger and better. And I think everybody should be forever grateful. I don't think we'll ever have anybody, and it's not to say that there's not folks that's not doing the hard work or the good work, should we say. But when you talk about this era, when you talk about the amount and the bandwidth that they were exhausting at this time, when as Uncle Snoop said, where they tried to destroy the Black Panthers, then they tried to pin us against each other, then they created the Crips and the Bloods, and when we tried to stand up in unity, they did everything to break us down. When that was the mission of society and the government and America, that these two folks did the unthinkable and used their lives to truly set a future for the many generations after them. And that's why we celebrate them in 2023, because I just think that years later it still hits home as if it happened today, as if that headline just came out today and we said, hey man, you wanna get online and say a few things about what he meant to you, and it hits just like that, man. So
yeah, it does, man. And I just want to leave people with, I would sum Afeni and Tupac up. If I had to sum them up, warrior is the word that comes to my mind. They both, in every regard,
Their bloodline is a bloodline of warriors.
Is a bloodline of warriors. When you hear people that were close to them talk about, that's what makes me believe it. If you have 5-6 different people talking about somebody and they all say the same thing, and these are different people that experience this person in different ways at different times, something got to be real. Something got to be something. Because you can't, you know what I mean? So all of the accounts that I hear about Afeni Shakur, Tupac Shakur, warrior is what comes to my mind. I don't necessarily look at Tupac like, say, as a thug. I look at him more like he had thug tendencies. He was a guy who stood on his beliefs,
educated,
and if he had to cross the line, he was willing to do so. Because you even hear like, certain like Spice One, who's very close to Tupac, and different people like that saying they feel like he didn't even really understand how deep this gang thing in LA went. You know what I'm saying? So certain situations probably he got himself into unfavorably just off his raw passion, but not realizing how serious the consequences could be. But that's how he was. Spice One, I just watched the interview, I think it was on Art of Dialogue recently. Spice One literally said that. That's how Tupac was. He didn't know nothing about chill. The more you told him to calm down, the more amped up he was going to get.
Yeah.
That's what it is. So I after watching everything and taking it in, I just look at these two beautiful people in our community that were a part of our community as warriors. And I'm so thankful that, like I said, they did not run from their calling. In fact, they faced it head on and ran into it. And it's because of that, I can honestly say, like, a part of that shaped me. Like I said, if I give you my top 5, Pac for me is number 2, only behind Big L. That's my favorite.
Not even on the list for me, because there's not a list that he fits on.
Right. And this is, like I say, and this is just purely from like a rap.
Yeah. I'm messing with you. Yeah.
But he, to me, and I don't even want to say, because it's like it's no disrespect. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's what he, like, literally, I put him at number 2. And like, oh, it's your second favorite. But Big L is my favorite, just off the wordplay, the punches, and I really like the way he rapped. But right after that, I love the way Pac raps, and Pac will always and forever
storytelling and everything.
You feel me? Pac is a great.
So much I can say, and that's where this is the last I'm saying. We're wrapping it up here. Is that hearing his mom rap his lyrics, hearing his mom talk about him, seeing his mom do public speaking, just those things in this documentary just meant a lot. And it's just the rewatchability in this is just really priceless. And the fact that this is available on FX and not some extreme paywall and archives, like you need a clearance to check in for this is just, I'm thankful for just kind of tripping over my words and lack of better words. But what can we say, man? Allen Hughes got one on this one. I cannot wait to see what's next. And
if he don't get an award for this, bruh,
he's 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, man. So people definitely talking. They all talking in the same direction, and it's a must watch, folks.
It is an amazing set of footage. It's an amazing project.
Combination,
It's an amazing project, start to finish.
Yeah.
If you ain't seen it, please go on your Hulu, watch the first 2 episodes now.
Yeah, then FX each and every Friday, 10 p.m.
Do yourself a favor, please.
Yep. And the last thing I will say is that I love the progression of like us seeing what events triggered Tupac to become the person that he was, and we ultimately knew him to be. So like knowing that these events in his life and hearing him talk about these events and how they sent them off. Like you talk about him being mad and angry because what society did to him. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. And I think that he experiencing these things back in the early 90s, that us experiencing these things in the late 2020s. Yeah, like come on now. But I'm gonna end it there. I'm gonna let you all get to it. Again, episode 3, 4, and 5 is to come. Episode 1 and 2 is available now, folks. Check them all out. And just get your tissues or your handkerchiefs or your blanket, whatever it is, because I'm sure, much like myself, you're going to be in tears in a certain part. It's just that good.
And if you have kids or older kids, because there is there's language. But if you have older kids like high school age or about to get out of middle school,
Sit them down.
you sit them down and let them experience.
Sit them down.
You know what I mean? Because like I said, it's something I remember when Pac was alive. I was a kid, but I was there. I remember it. For the kids now, they didn't have that. They didn't have that experience because he gone. Sit them down, let them watch and understand what this really is about.
Yeah. 5-part docuseries available each and every Friday on FX, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Catch it the following day on Hulu. Folks, get in the comments. Let us know your thoughts, your love, your support, and overall for Tupac and his mom. And then until next time, folks, we got plenty more reviews and content coming to you very soon. Thank you for watching.